Hey guys, Donald from St. Paul's Kids here. Now, we know the lockdown is going to be real tricky, but we're going to do everything we can so that you guys still feel that part of our community, including getting a story each week. We're going to be doing a whole range of things, so keep watching out on the Facebook page. But the first story we're talking about has a theme of courage. And this one guy, he had to have a lot, because his name was famous today. And back then, in the time that it was taken and the story's told, he was quite famous too, and a little bit infamous in there. So, we're going way back to the time of the Israelites in Egypt. They were made, so many of them. They were a large population. They were all turned into slaves by the Egyptians. The Pharaoh made them work hard, build the pyramids, make clay. And this isn't like putting it into... They have to get it together and make it... It was hard work, and they would have to work so long and hard. And a little boy was found by the princess, and he grew up into a man. Now this was a Hebrew boy, so he was one of the Israelites. But she adopted him and she became like them. And he did something that ended up killing one of the Egyptians. And when the Pharaoh found out about it, he was furious. And he wanted to have him arrested. So Moses, he fled the country. Now, we're not talking about, I'm going to run away down to the corner dairy. No! He literally would have had to walk to the middle of nowhere. It was kind of like, it would be like leaving Auckland, a civilized city, for someone like Palmerston North, way down the country. It was that far too. And he didn't catch a plane, he didn't catch a train, he couldn't catch a bus, and he didn't even have a bike. But he walked the whole way, and eventually he made it to this one place. And he settled there, and he met a lovely lady. He rescued her from a well, and a few little dodgy shepherds that were trying to push their way in, being bullies, and Moses stood up to them. Now Moses lived a great life there. He was a happy man. He had some sons, he had a lovely wife, very important for him, and he ended up looking and working on the farm of his father-in-law. So he would go up and he would take the sheep. Sometimes he'd range up into the hills. He had some really nice isolation time up there by himself, just chilling out, him and a flock of a couple of hundred sheep and maybe some goats mixed in there. And he would sit up there, and sometimes he'd move them up to the grass where it was greenest. And one day, Moses took the herd up to the top of this hill called Mount Carmel. And on top of that hill, he just thought, imagine that, sitting down after a long, hard day's work, and there you go. He's settled in. He can just relax. He sat down, leaned up against a rock, and enjoyed watching the sunset. Not a cloud in the sky. And as the sun was setting, he looked over, and there was like a tree, like a manuka bush. Just erupted into flames. He was like, whoa! And he's looking like there's no lightning, there's no fire at it, no one's here. He's like, oh, that's weird. And it got weirder still, because in this flaming tree, crackling of the fire, something different happened. It didn't burn. It was just a fire. It was like all the leaves were still there, like perfect. Or you could just see this flame engulfing around it. Now Moses was transfixed. He could not believe this. Is like, the weirdest thing he'd ever seen. And it got weirder still, because all of a sudden he hears this, Moses. He looked around, and again, Moses. This is tripping him out. He was looking around, seeing there's like a Yui boom hiding under a couch or around somewhere. And again it came out, Moses. He looked up, knowing fully well something was different. I'm here. God started speaking to him. It was amazing. Moses couldn't believe it. He was like, oh. The first thing God said to him is, dude, take your shoes off. If Moses was anything like me, we were like, dropped onto his knees. I'm here, God. What do you want to say? God said to him, Moses, I have heard my people's cries. I have heard of and seen the stuff that's happening to them in Israel, and I want to deliver them. Well, Moses thought, sweet, this is awesome. About time. Thank you, God. We've all been asking and we've been wanting this. And then God stopped him cold. I want to send you. Moses' blood left his face. He went white as a sheet. Me? No, God. No. No, you can't be serious. Not me. There's no way you could send me. But God said to him, I am sending you. I hear their calls and you are going to rescue them. You are going to be my messenger and you're going to free them. But Moses see, the thing about Moses is he was quite a little bit scared. He was very scared he was quite shy, a little bit scared of public speaking. He didn't like having that sort of all the spotlight on him. And he got a little bit nervous. And we don't actually know what it was about him, whether he had a squeaky voice or what. But he did not like the idea of talking to people out loud. Maybe he talked to them silently. I don't know. But God said, dude, I've got this. Don't worry. You're going to take your family, and on the way, as you're coming up, your brother Aaron's going to meet you. He is going to be part of it. You're going to tell Aaron, and Aaron's going to tell them. That seems a little bit weird, a little bit like Chinese whispers, but that's how God said, you will be fine, Moses. I've got you. Have courage. So Moses went down, got all the sheep, thinking, what? I mean, this was blowing his mind. He'd all moved away up here, and now he's got to go back. He could still be arrested and killed. There's a new Pharaoh, his brother kind of thing that he used to hang out with down there, but, you know, who knows? So he got his family and his sons and he packed up a few belongings and they hopped on a donkey and off they went. And sure enough, on the way up, Aaron bumped into them. He said, dude, I've just come up to see you. He's like, oh, Aaron, have we got a job to do? I've been talking to God? Huh? Yeah. Talking to God. What? I've been talking to God. I know it sounds crazy, but he's told me we're going to set our people free. God's going to do some amazing stuff and he's going to take us back to the promised land of Coke and chocolate. Aaron couldn't believe it. He was like, God told me to come up and see you, but this is what it is. Let's go. So sure enough, they went in. And the very first time Moses walked into the Pharaoh's court, he saw where he used to stand at the gatherings, right by the pillars in the corner, while Pharaoh would make his judgments and talk to people, and he'd stand next to the man who is now Pharaoh, and they'd giggle and they'd joke about little things. Instead of seeing his man who was like a brother to him beside the pillar, he was on the throne making the calls. He looked down and he saw Moses, and he would have think about it. If you had seen someone who you haven't seen that you loved like a brother for so long, he must have wanted to leap out of the seat and give him a huge hug. He looked at him. Moses looked at him. Whispered to Aaron, Pharaoh, the living God, the one true God, says, let my people go. Silence filled the room. You could hear a pin drop. Beep, 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 beep. A lot of people were hoping they didn't do any blow-offs at that stage as well, I can guarantee it. Pharaoh's eyebrow lifted high. His balding, shaved head. Those little snake crown thingies coming up. You want the Israelites to be free? I'm sorry, Moses. It's good to see you again. But you are dreaming. Who is this God that tells me, the Pharaoh, the living God, a king of all of Egypt, the most powerful man in the world. Who do you think you and your God are to tell me what to do? Moses' heart sunk. He had hoped upon hope that Pharaoh would go, open his arms, open his heart, let the people go and see the injustice, the horrible thing of the slavery that they had been forced into. Instead, Pharaoh made it even harder. He made them have to work twice as hard with less but just as much production. It was hard. People were complaining and they started grumbling against Moses the next day. Because of you, you're interfering. Moses said, chill. God has a plan. He is going to free us. He is going to rescue us from this slavery. We've got to have hope and have courage. Trust me. The next day, Pharaoh awoke and all the water in the whole land wasn't water anymore. It was wet. But as he tried his drink in the morning, it was blood. Every drop of water, the river Nile was red with blood. And he still wouldn't let Israel go. And the next day, Pharaoh, with a nice shiny head like they used to have, awoke with a frog right on top. Frogs everywhere. Frogs there, frogs there, frogs there. It was just Frog City. Again, Moses said, let my people go. And then he still wouldn't. And then came the gnats, millions of swarms of tiny bugs that when you take a breath in, and then came the flies, annoying, just swatting, landing on you, just millions of them. And then the next day, he still would not let the Israelites go. And all the livestock in the land were killed. They died. But the most uncomfortable one, it was getting worse. Everyone woke up because again, Pharaoh wouldn't let them go. The next plague was that everyone woke up with boils. Now we're not talking about little pimples that you get, little pop. We're talking about these big suckers that are like big lumps on your skin and big heads and it's gross. And they couldn't do anything. They couldn't move because it hurt. They had boils everywhere. And it got even worse after that. Big lightning storm happened. And hailstones the size of your fist came down. Making holes in the roofs. Ruining any crops that they had. And again, Moses said, let my people go. And again, Pharaoh laughed. Ha! No way. They are my slaves and I will make them work harder. Now, if you don't know what a locust is, let me describe it like a weta with wings. And all of a sudden, the next day they awoke and the land was covered in these wettery locusts. Huge bugs that were just eating through all their food. Every bit of the stored up food they had been storing up, gone. Filled with locusts. People getting angry at the Pharaoh. Can you stop this? And again, he would not let them go. And the last plague happened. And Moses had tears in his eyes when he told Pharaoh, let them go, please. But he wouldn't because he believed in his own power. And he didn't want to be humble and let his slaves go. The next day, Pharaoh awoke up and there was crying throughout the land. Hundreds of people, thousands in the city, died. Every house had someone pass away. And eventually Pharaoh got so upset and so sad, he said to Moses, take them away, take whatever you want, I don't want to see you ever again. Moses had tears coming down his eyes because he knew the pain that Pharaoh would be going through. So he gathered the people and they got all their possessions and even people giving them their stuff just to make them go. Because they had endured these horrible times. And now off they went. Moses took them to the Red Sea. They followed this big giant pillar of flame and smoke and fire. to the Red Sea. Now, Pharaoh worked out there's going to be problems for him if he wanted to finish all these amazing building projects. He had all the slaves were gone. That meant his own people would do that, and they would not be happy about that. So he, in a realization of this anger, he jumped onto his chariot, got his army, hurrah! And off they rode to chase down the Israelites, to make them pay and bring them back as slaves. Well, the Israelites by this stage had made it to the Red Sea, and they could see the dust cloud coming up with the chariots racing towards them. And everyone was like, Moses, what have you done? We sent us here to die? Moses said to God, hey, God, what's going on? God said to Moses, face the sea and raise your staff. And Moses did that. He held his staff up high, and as he did that, the Red Sea parted like a comb through here. And we're not talking about a little bit of, oh, it's a bit wet, splash, splash. We are talking about a complete people walking across on dry land across the Red Sea. They got to the other side, and by this stage, Pharaoh could see them walking. He was furious. They won't escape. Yeah! Onward, soldiers, leave not one! Charging through, and just as they were about halfway through the Red Sea, it was like, Moses heard God say, drop the staff. And just then the walls of water that had been building up came down on them like a ton of bricks, smashing their chariots, wiping all the heavily laden soldiers away. Israel was safe. Moses turned to his people and said, over there is slavery, but over here is the land that God promised of milk and honey, of Coke and chocolate. Are you with me, or are you with the slavery? They all turned and they walked, marched on towards the promised land. Now they made tons of mistakes along the way and took a long time for them to actually get there. But the courage of Moses held firm. And that, guys, is our story for this week. I'll see you next week.